Well, I mean, here you are. You've given at least half a decade at this point, maybe a little bit more, toward a career that in a moment's it's gone. I mean, literally, it is evaporated.
It is definitely changed from that day on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what do you do? I mean, how do you pivot in that season?
So nowhere to go but forward, right?
Hey, thanks for listening to the Badass Dad podcast, where we are a band of brothers committed to forging stronger fathers. Hey, get connected with us. You can go to our website, new and updated website, BadAssDads.org. That is BadAssDads.org. Hey, sign up for our email list where you'll be getting the most up-to-date content and some behind-the-scenes things as well as exclusive content. Follow us on Instagram at BadAssDads Podcast. You can also do me a favor. My one ask for you is subscribe and write a review and rate this podcast. Give us 5 stars. Leave us a review. We're going to be sending out some swag, some t-shirts and things to people who leave a review for us. So please do that and follow us on all those different forms. Have a badass day. Welcome to the Badass Dad podcast. KDH here on the microphone once again in the Iron Yeti studios, and very excited about today, man. Got my friend Steve.brightman. So, Steve, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, we were talking a little bit off the air, and I'm excited about talking about this because, you know, you have a background profession that, you know, many of us get to experience, but we don't get to experience, you know, from the front. And so being a pilot, and you know, I'm in the back of the bus all the time. But looking forward to talking a little bit about that and kind of what it's like, and also the timing of it. I thought it was really interesting. You know, I'd asked you before a little bit about your background, the timing. So I got a few questions about that, but. Give us a little introduction into who little Stevie B is growing up there just outside of Akron, Ohio.
Yeah.
What were you like as a kid?
Little Stevie B. Yep. A little bit shy. I think I was a shy kid. Yeah. Loved baseball, played baseball. I was a pitcher. Had a great childhood. You know, I got a younger brother. He's 2.5 years younger than me. We all had the same general group of friends and ran together, you know. Real stable childhood, you know, and Northeast Ohio. So, it was good, man. My parents were divorced when we were young, you know, so, you know, my mom remarried, and so we lived with my mom and stepdad and visited my dad every other weekend, that kind of thing, you know, typical divorce.
Was he in the same small town as where you grew up?
He was the next town over, so, you know,
so close enough.
10, 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
So, so.
And you said, you know, being right there, you didn't necessarily grow up a Cavs fan even before LeBron.
Yeah, so.
But it was all about baseball.
We watched Cavs. You know, we watched Cavs. I was never really a heavy basketball fan, and that's going to offend you probably, right? Being a basketball. But yeah, more of an Indians guy, trading baseball cards and stuff. Remember that? It
was a wild thing.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, Major League, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
So you become a pilot. Yeah. You know, and so you actually go to college, which is. You know, I've known a handful of people that have taken that route. I mean, a lot of them take the military route. You know, they try to go, you know, the Air Force Academy or something like that.
They're the smart ones, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little more linear route, a lot less expensive.
Yeah, a lot less expensive.
Well, out of pocket, but you still owe something with your life, you know, if you do the military.
Yeah. So I did. I went the civilian route.
Okay.
I considered the military thing for a little bit, but I don't know. At the time, I just I don't know, to put it bluntly, I just didn't want to leave home.
Okay.
I think that was probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to commit to that, but you know, the civilian thing, I went to college just down the road. You know, it was, you know, 20 minutes away. Mm-hmm. Actually, the airport for Kent State was in my town.
Wow. Okay.
So I grew up around that, and so it was in the back of my mind the whole time. I figured I would do that, but anyway, so I did the civilian route. Finished high school and jumped right into that, and I was flying by, I don't know, I guess I was 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you said your grandfather flew in World War II.
He didn't fly in war. He was in the Air Force.
But he was
an MP.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had a heavy interest in it.
Okay.
Right? And he was a huge historian, like, you know, World War II buff, of course. Right?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he was an MP in that in the composite squadron that was attached to Colonel Tibbetts.
Okay.
In the squadron that dropped the bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had a lot of history, a lot of stuff. You know, that was, you know. So he ended up he got his pilot's license, I think, when he got out of the war, And so he would fly privately, just messing around with Cessnas and that. And so.
And take you up? And
I never went up with him.
Really? Okay.
And again, I get all this information third hand. I can't remember. It's been so long, but I think he had a heart attack while he was flying.
Oh, no.
And one of the guys, his buddy was with him that wasn't really a pilot, and he ended up getting it on the ground or something like that. That's how the story goes, as far as it was told to me. But
wow,
that was the end of his flying, because you can't get your medical after that, so you're done.
Okay.
But yeah, so
if you go the civilian route and you go through, traditional university route, how does the process work? I mean,
yeah, so you just join a flight school, right?
Okay.
So it's a degree. It's a bachelor's degree.
In aviation? Or?
Yeah, mine was it's a completely worthless degree, to be honest with you. I mean, if you're not going to be a pilot, there's not much else you can do with it. But mine was aerospace and flight technology. That's the fancy name for it. It's a bachelor's of science.
So you're one of those smart kids.
No.
Yeah.
No. No, I try real hard.
Okay.
I can fake it, but
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a program. They got it all set up. From start to finish, they take you from zero to hero, and by the time you're done, you graduate. You're a flight instructor essentially.
Okay.
And so that's what I did. It took Northeast Ohio. The weather's not great, so getting flights in took me a little longer. It took me an extra semester to get it done.
You get your hours in and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But at the end of it, I was a flight instructor.
Okay.
And I could teach you how to fly.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
And yeah, exactly. Right. So that's kind of how that goes, And you get a bunch of other courses in there, obviously, to fill in the rest. But and then you come out of that and you try to find a way to build hours and make your way into the airlines. That's the end, the end goal.
So you start flying commercially in what year?
That was probably 2004.
2004.
Yeah. So in between graduating in 2001, so I graduated. I had been flight instructing at the university for about 6 months.
Okay.
And I decided I want to move to Denver. I always wanted to live out here, right?
I don't blame you.
Yeah, So big skier, mountain guy. So moved out to Denver and found a job out here, flight instructing up at Jeffco Airport up north. And right about the time I got out here, 2 weeks later, September 11th. Yeah. So that was
going to be the subject I want to bring up about this whole thing. So.
Yeah. So here's me, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, right out of college, ready to rock, and I got all of 500 hours under my belt, and I landed that good job. But here we go. We just press reset on the whole industry, and so that was that.
So 500 hours. What does it take to become commercial?
Well, now it's a little more.
Okay.
Right? They changed the rules. I guess it was about 10 years ago now.
Okay.
And they upped it. So, it really depends on what program you do. Some accredited universities, you can shorten it, but it's right around 1,200-ish hours.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. I forget exactly.
So, all right. So September 11th happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, that happened.
It totally changes the trajectory. I mean, Gretchen and I remember being at the gym and going, "What the hell just happened?" Looking at the TV screens and going, "What the hell just happened?" And you're a pilot.
Yeah.
Like how do you process that? I mean,
yeah, I was pissed.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember sitting on my apartment or on my couch in my apartment, and I didn't even unpack my boxes yet, right? And seeing that, and I knew. I mean, I knew what was going on, especially after the second one hit, and it's kind of like deer in headlights. Like, now what? Because I'm instantly running. Fast forward here, the industry is going to stop. Hiring's going to stop.
Yeah,
people are going to stop flying. And then the extent of that, I had no idea. The lending tightened up pretty quickly after that and got expensive, and we couldn't even fly. We couldn't fly for like a solid 2 weeks. They shut the airspace down, and then the airlines start laying guys off, and it's just this whole chain reaction of suck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here you are. You've given at least half a decade at this point, maybe a little bit more, toward a career that in a moment's it's gone. I mean, literally, it is evaporated.
It is definitely changed from that day on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what do you do? I mean, how do you pivot in that season?
So nowhere to go but forward, right? The flight school I worked for, they had a pretty good group of owners, and we got creative to keep the flight school running. Because what they did was they shut down airspace around, I don't know, I guess you'd call them like potential threats or targets. And then I think that Jeffco was encompassed by I think it's the Rocky Mountain Arsenal or something like that up there that they drew like a 25-mile radius around that and said nobody can fly here until we tell you. So that shut the whole airport down. So we ended up getting a waiver. Long story short, we got the airplanes from the flight school up to Longmont, and we ran a flight school out of there. And so we were able to continue, somewhat teaching and doing that, keeping the business going. So that was good.
And so in that process, you're working hard, training, racking up hours.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
10-hour days. Just
grinding.
Just grinding it out for 2.5 years.
Okay. And then, I mean, are you interviewing through that whole process, or are you looking, or are you message boards? I mean, what?
At the time, so, a couple of years go past and I'm building my time and I'm getting competitive in terms of being hireable. Okay. Right. And so step one is to get hired at somewhere. You remember Great Lakes Airlines? Yes.
Remember
that? They fly those little prop. Beach 1900, turboprops.
Landing the
their standards are a little lower than, say, the United Airlines and
Yeah.
So, that's my jumping off point. So I got hired there and flew those things around, made about $13,000 my first year.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, flying in and out of the Rockies, long days.
Yeah.
8 legs a day, just, again, grinding it out. Took a huge pay cut to go do that.
Okay.
I'm probably about, 23 at that point, 23 and a half, something like that. And, so I did that for a year. They started laying off. They furloughed. So I made the jump to the next one, which was SkyWest Airlines.
Okay.
Flying CRJs, the little regional jets around. And that was a good job, so that started a little better pay and worked my way up there. I was there for about 3 years. Yeah. And that's where things got better. I met a lot of friends. I met my wife there.
Okay.
She was a flight attendant.
Okay, I was going to say she was
yeah, imagine that.
Yeah.
Shocker, right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of good friends there, a lot of good times. Built time there, ended up upgrading, which means becoming a captain.
Okay.
Right, and built some time. And then I think it was November of 2007, I got hired at Continental Airlines.
Okay.
Right, so the next step. Now we're into the majors.
Okay.
Right?
So that's what takes you to the Houston area.
So that took me to Houston. Yeah, I was living here, and right about that time is when when it started to really dump on me, right, with all those things, but that I sent you in the text message. But long story short, living in Denver, I was based out of Newark, flying a 757 across the Atlantic, and it was just a brutal schedule. Trying to get from Denver to Newark.
Okay.
And then flying, right? And it was a disaster. It was tough. So I ended up bidding over to Houston, which is another one of their bases.
Yeah.
And we moved down to Houston.
Okay.
Right, in early, I guess it would have been mid to late 2008, something like that.
Okay. All right. So let's catch it up from there because, you got to remember, so 2007, the economy's rocking, the market's crushing it. You know,
sure.
I always kind of remember that because, coming from the financial world, the Dow goes over 14,000 for the first time, in October that year. And, it's once again, financially, it's one of those time periods that you can't make a bad play. I mean, like everything people are touching is turning to gold. I mean, real estate's going nuts. The little do we realize the irrational exuberance that's going on is about to pop.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So here you are.
Yeah. Here we are again.
You're in Houston. You kind of finally landed with the big boys.
Right.
You got to be excited.
Yep.
What's your wife's name?
Carrie.
Yeah. So Carrie's got to be excited too.
Well, we're a little less than excited.
I mean, you're in Houston, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. Things got a little stressful for us right around then. But keep going.
So, but from the world standpoint, there's a lot of good things that are going on. We're well down the road from 9/11. Markets, everything is going great, and then all of a sudden this, incredible pivotal year for you, your family, the economy. I mean, when you were texting me this, I was thinking about I coach my son's football team, and, we teach gang tackling. Like, everybody get in on the tackle.
Yeah, sure.
And I literally was imagining little Stevie at the bottom of the pile doing everything he can to hold on to the ball as literally like
getting crushed.
22 guys are on top of him right now.
Yeah, and I should preface this by saying I had it easy. I really did.
Okay.
I mean, I really should say that. I'm not – I know plenty of guys that had it way worse in the industry especially, but – yeah, I definitely was at the bottom of the pile during that time.
Okay.
So
all right. So I'll hit some of the low lights, and then we'll talk about them. So then 2008 hits. We have a financial crisis. Deeply impacts the industry you're in.
Yep.
Your grandfather passes away. Your dad has a heart attack.
Stroke.
Stroke. Yeah. Your girlfriend, soon to be wife, now is pregnant. And okay. So any one of those things is stressful enough.
Moving,
new
job,
living in Houston.
Yeah, just living in Houston was stressful.
Yeah. And then there's a little hurricane that happens.
Yeah, Hurricane Ike. Boy, that was fun. So piling on top of that little sundae, that's a little cherry here. Yeah. So Hurricane Ike, and I'm going to forget. It was hurricane season, right? So August, September, October, I guess, something like around there. I can't remember exactly, but it was a big one. It was a bad one. It was aiming right for us. And we had a little apartment. We were on a third-floor apartment. And I think it was about 7 weeks prior, my daughter was born prematurely, emergency C-section, due to, I can't remember exactly what that was. I think her heart rate was dropping is what it was. And they were watching it. And so they scheduled the C-section. Let's get her out and get her on the outside, right? So that happened. And she ended up back in the NICU and some other stuff and some complications for that. But we ended up out of the hospital, with her home, everything good. As I recall, 2 weeks later, something like that.
But you know what? Hold on.
Yeah.
Now, we're 12 years down the road. It's always easy to go, 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
But at that moment,
it was the worst.
Seriously,
was the worst.
That 320 hours, I mean, that's soul crushing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's hard to remember exactly how that feels, but I remember being really upset, But yeah, and so, to rewind, I'd been making peanuts for the best part of a decade.
Yeah.
I've got no savings.
Yeah.
It wasn't a couple of months prior to this that I was just some jackass with my brother in the house. We were having house parties and having a great time, and now here I am. But so we get Addie home, my daughter, and get her squared away. And we're in the third floor apartment. Here comes the hurricane, and the whole city's evacuating. And so, I'm not real experienced with hurricanes. They're telling me it's bad.
Ohio, y'all didn't have a ton of hurricanes.
No, we didn't have any of those, man. Yeah, occasional tornado, but and we didn't really know anybody. My wife, Carrie, had some family friends that lived nearby, and we ended up going to their place and getting out of the third floor apartment. And they were further north, and it was a little safer up there. But long story short, and if I could lay the foundation, I'd say the management at Continental Airlines, particularly in the Houston base, was extremely adversarial with the pilot groups. And they kind of ruled with an iron fist. And I think anybody who would listen to me say that would be nodding your head just like you are right now. They're terrible individuals. And one in particular that was running the base at the time. So essentially what happened is all these guys that are based in Houston, pilots, everybody didn't go to work because the company said, don't come to work if you got to take care of your family. And I felt like my wife, who had just is in the process of recovering from an emergency C-section, and we've got this infant at home, I figured, certainly I fall into that category, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I got home from a quick 2-day trip, and then the hurricane's going to come tomorrow. And so I'm on call, or what we call reserve, for the following 3 days that carry right into the hurricane. Well, at the time, the cell phone towers were inundated. You couldn't make a phone call with your cell phone. And so I couldn't call the company. They couldn't get through to me. They ended up calling me and saying, hey, we have a trip for you to take. And I said, I can't do that. I'm going to bail out with my wife and kid. They got very angry about that. I offered to help. I offered to say I can go to the airport and I can take it out to, I think the flight was going to Seattle or something like that. If you guys can just get me back the next day before the airport shuts down. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. I said, okay, I can't help you then, and hang up the phone and off we go. Well, at the end of the, after the hurricane, it comes and goes. It was pretty nasty. All the power's out and all that, right? And a couple of days later, I get a phone call from what we call the chief pilot. He's the manager, right, of the pilots in that base. And he's like, hey, I have a termination hearing scheduled for you on such and such a date. Recommend you bring union representation. We're union pilots, right? I said, wow, what, it's kind of floored.
Yeah.
Like, what did I do? And I've never had a problem anywhere I've worked, ever.
Right.
I'd tell you if it was me, right? I would. But so he kind of hung up on me, and I get a hold of the union. I'm green behind the ears here. I'm a probationary pilot, so I haven't even made it to a year yet, right?
Okay.
So this is problematic. So the union digs into it, and they figure out, and this guy's a problem. This manager's always been a problem. But they figure out that he didn't like the fact that I declined the trip they were trying to give me. And so he wanted me to come in and he wanted to terminate me, right? That's the short story of it. The long story is there was over 250 some odd pilots that day that called in sick, didn't show up for trips. None of them got called in, except for one other guy, and that's a buddy of mine now, and his name is Lynn. Both of us had the same story. We both had newborns. He said, I can't do it.
Yeah.
The difference is that we were both on probation. So that's why we got. So they yanked his chain and they yanked mine. And so, and they left, they marked this meeting for like 5 weeks out, and they just let us stew and just suffer, right? Because that's the kind of guy he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we show up, the ending is that we showed up for these meetings and got yelled at for about 15 minutes by this guy, told what a piece of crap I am, and had to sign a letter saying that my probation was extended another year. So our claim to fame is we're the only two pilots at Continental Airlines ever to be part of the double secret probationary club. So that was, yeah. So that was on top of everything else that was going on. I had a furlough letter at the time. I was supposed to be laid off because of the housing crisis and all that was hitting. And then, our daughter premature and it just, my dad, my grandfather, it was nonstop, man.
Dude, and this really extends for the 2 years.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned earlier a little different context, but you said, nowhere to go but forward. Like,
yeah, just, super easy to just sit there and woe is me and cry in your beer. But now you've got an extra mouth to feed. And boy, that was an adjustment period, man. I got to tell you, we ended up, so moving forward, we moved back to Ohio.
Okay.
Because they kicked me out of Houston because of my seniority and they were laying pilots off. So now I'm based in Newark again.
Okay.
Involuntarily, right? So move our stuff back to where I'm from. Figured that's probably the best play because I can at least commute to Newark from Cleveland.
Right. I
can eventually be based in Cleveland, which is at a Continental base, right? And in the meantime, I can work construction. Go back to that. That's when I grew up working roofing with my old man. So that's what we did. Relocated back to Stowe and ended up buying a small little house there. Nice little house. It was good. Housing's cheap there.
Yeah.
I got to tell you that. A fraction of the cost is here. But, moved back there. And then I worked essentially a half schedule because they were laying guys off so much. And then the union and the company came to an agreement that if X amount of guys work half a schedule, we won't lay X amount off, right? And so that's what I did. And I ended up saving my own job probably. So I'd work about a week and a half at the airline, and I'd work the rest of the time roofing.
Okay.
So
just figuring it out.
Yeah, just trudging ahead, right?
Okay.
So
then how do you end up back in Colorado?
So you
make it through the 2 years, obviously.
Make it through, yeah. So that. I don't know. That probably brings us to 2010, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, so things improve in the airline, and United Airlines and Continental merge.
Okay.
Right. Which created a whole bunch of other challenges I don't even get into. That's super contentious stuff with seniority lists and things like that, right? But things started to improve. You know, the environment improved. The job got better. I was back to full time. I was making decent coin, you know, finally, after quite a while in the industry.
Okay, so real quick. So, I mean, you're trudging along, you know, with this dream with, you know, I don't know if it's a passion or not, but you're staying with this flying for 10 years more?
Yeah, I graduated in 2001. I started commercially in 2004.
Okay.
So solid, you know, 10 years, I guess, at this point of
before you actually
in the pros. Yeah.
Before I finally professional money.
Before you finally crack into the, okay, I'm starting to feel financially comfortable.
Okay.
But in the meantime, you've been living like a hobo for, you know,
right.
And it wasn't that. I just, you know, we had enough. It seemed like we always made it work.
Yeah.
But we had some fun too along the way. You know, so things got better, and then you know, we were comfortable there in Stowe and kind of getting assimilated, and it was kind of good to be home again and that. But let's see, in 2000 and fast forward to 17, started thinking about maybe the next move, because Cleveland, Ohio was not, the base there was not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, it was getting smaller, right? And it's pretty small to this date. So that means there's no career progression there. And my best option would be to start commuting to Newark again, right? Which isn't fun. Any pilot will tell you that's a real, it sucks, right? So a job opportunity came up. They posted internally in the company. They're hiring flight instructors out in Denver, right? So I figured, hey, you know, I ran it past Carrie. I'm like, what do you think? This could be good. I mean, the pay goes up. It's Denver. We go back to where we came from, and you know, maybe greener pastures and that. So,
and you had added another mouth to feed during that process.
Yeah, we
too.
did. Yeah, another one came out. Yeah, imagine that. Yeah, so Declan was born in Ohio, in our house there in Stowe, and so yeah, we got another mouth to feed, right? So anyway, so I interview, I spool up for that, and that was pretty intense, right? You got a lot of prep for that, pulling all the favors in and stuff, and ended up getting hired. And so we moved back out to Denver, sold our house. In the meantime, I'm training for this new job, which is arguably pretty difficult, right, to get spooled up on that. Now you're teaching major airline pilots how to be major airline pilots, right? So a lot of spool up time for that. Huge learning curve. I think anybody would agree with that. So there's stress with that. Now we're going to move again, sell the house, buy a new one. And we got settled out here in March of 18.
Okay. So just a couple years ago.
Yeah, March of 17, I guess. It was March of 17.
And so here we go, the spring of 2020.
Yep. Here we go again.
Kind of get shut down. Airlines. Now, I got to tell you, my family and I, we've been doing our best to keep all the airlines afloat. I think we've traveled 6 or more times, you know. Already.
Oh, good. Yeah.
But I mean, dude, like, here we go again.
Yeah, here we go again, man.
Yeah.
So, so as you know, COVID did not help the airline industry.
Yeah.
Right. So there's already been, several regionals that have failed completely, which is one of being ExpressJet.
Yep.
Which, that's tragic. So there's a lot of people without jobs right now in the piloting profession. The problem with being a pilot is everything's seniority based.
Okay.
So if I leave my airline right now and go to, say, Delta, or not that that's even an option right now because they're looking to lay off, right? You start over at the bottom. It doesn't matter that you've got 25 years of whatever experience. You go back to zero.
So it feels like they've got the golden handcuffs on you right now.
Oh, they got it.
Yeah.
They got it big time.
And they probably know it.
They know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I read the headlines, and we've talked a little bit, before, but there's some imminent layoffs that are coming,
Yes.
I mean, you've been able to weather the storm in the past and, now, but I mean, does it feel like deja vu all over again? I mean, what?
It does. It does. But you know what? It feels better.
Okay.
I feel better about it.
Good.
And because I've been living my life like it's coming.
Okay.
Because it's a virtual certainty.
Yeah.
And you can just, I tell this to everybody, just start your watch now. 10, 12 years, it's going to happen again. And if you don't think so.
Just cyclical.
Yeah, it's every 10 years.
Okay.
It's something. It's September 11th. It's the housing crisis. Now it's COVID. I don't know, asteroid hitting the earth in 2030. I don't know. So, yeah. But I've been living kind of with that on my shoulder a little bit, like, let's get ready for the next one. And so, the instructor job put me in a position where I could do that, more effectively than just, what I was doing in Ohio.
Yeah.
So, you asked, it's a deja vu. Yeah, it is. But it's nice to be able to look, the environment sucks, but it's nice to be able to at least see, hey, the preparation and some of the discipline we had financially is paying off.
Well, talk to us a little bit about that. How have you guys, you and Carrie, prepared yourself for this?
Saving.
Okay.
Saving.
Be specific.
Okay. Well, first of all, I was very uncomfortable with the size of the house. I shouldn't say the size, the price of the house I bought out here, right? Yeah. In the meantime, in Ohio, I didn't mention, I partnered up with a friend of mine and bought a rental property and gutted that and did real well on that. And we still have that. So that's sitting in the back pocket right now. Matter of fact, we're talking about selling that. So that'd be, a pretty good chunk of change. My wife is extremely frugal. I mean, you talk about hitting the jackpot.
Nice.
Right.
Yes.
This is not an expensive woman. She's fantastic. I mean, she's a coupon clipper.
Yeah. There you go. Love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So she is extremely frugal. It pains her to buy something not on sale. So she doesn't pay retail for anything, and that's great.
She must be related to Gretchen or something. I don't know.
Is that right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I love that. It's great, man.
Yes.
So aside from being a good cook, she's that, right? So I'm lucky.
Yes.
Right. I'm blindly lucky that worked out that way. Because we didn't necessarily pick each other, right?
Yeah.
So we did, but we didn't. So frugal, saved quite a bit every month. We were stacking cash away.
Is that something you learned from your parents, or where did that come from?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. My parents were always real responsible with money. They were both, so my mom was a teacher and my stepdad was a school psychologist for the public schools there. I mean, they weren't rich by any means, but they were smart with their money. They got good careers. They made good money, and we were very comfortable, right?
Good.
So those are lessons that definitely they taught us that, we didn't live terribly lavish but we never wanted for anything. So stay within your means, I guess.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And grind.
I'm going to shift gears on you a little bit here. And I don't know if I know you've listened to it maybe a couple of the episodes, so you may or may not have heard the next couple of questions I'm going to ask, but I mean, have you rewind the hands of time, a little more than 12, almost 13 years ago, and tell us a story of when you found out you were going to be a dad for the first time.
Yeah, that was scary. I was in training. Aircraft training for Continental Airlines, and their training was down in Houston, right? And so Carrie and I were friends at SkyWest, and we only started to date towards the end there. And when I got hired at Continental, we were together, and I was in, like I said, aircraft training down in Houston, and she, called and said, "Hey, I'm late," and I, everything going on. I'm like, "Yes, that's about right." Yeah. So pregnancy tests, here we go. And I hadn't met her parents. Her parents are in Oklahoma, and I think she met my mom once, who had come out to visit. So, it's decision time, right? Pretty serious decision. There's two ways you can go.
Yeah.
And I thought long and hard about it, and she did too. And man, I just couldn't go the other route. So, man, and I can't imagine life otherwise.
Yeah.
So
she calls you on the phone.
She calls me on the phone. Yeah.
And you're there.
Yeah. And I'm in the hotel room, and after a day of training, and we're studying, and it's not the easiest thing you're going to do, but it's, right. You're studying, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah. How do you sleep that night?
I didn't sleep. I was like, I need a bourbon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She was a mess too, man. It was upsetting, but we pulled together and just said, let's give it a shot. Right.
Yeah.
And I think with the right amount of mutual respect and love, it works out.
That's awesome.
It worked out great.
That is so awesome. I read a book, and I've had my oldest son Jacob read it. It's a book called The Traveler's Gift, and in it, Andy Andrews he has this little phrase. It's really a fascinating book, kind of a travels through the time, and you get to learn about a bunch of different characters throughout history. But there's this one phrase that has always stuck with me, and it was this. He said, "God did not put in me the ability to always make the right decision, but he gave me the ability to make a decision and then make it right."
Yeah, that's good.
Because like in this was not the decision that you were necessarily planning on making.
Right.
But you decided afterward to make it right. And now I'm sure you look at Addie and you go,
yeah.
Oh.
I don't even let that enter into my thought.
Yeah.
It's exactly. That's a good way to put it. You do what feels right based on, you and work the rest out down the road.
Yeah.
I just knew the other way. I knew I couldn't live with that.
Well, I'm going to mention it again, because you mentioned it the first time. We correlated it another time. You said, nowhere to go but forward. And so, like, where does that come from?
I think it's a combination of my mom, my parents.
Okay.
My mom had her way of instilling that. Like, she was a no excuses kind of lady. Her method of parenting was, she was a professional parent. She taught. Yeah. She was a counselor. Mm-hmm. She was an educator. And she taught classes on how to parent, and man, she had it clocked, man. She didn't have to lift a finger. She didn't have to lay a hand. We never got spanked or hit or anything. Yeah. She would turn a tear on here or there, and that was like, it just make you turn inward, right? Yeah. But her thing, I would say, overriding her style was everything has a consequence, and I'm sorry you made that choice, but now you have consequences, and these are it. And it was very cut and dry. And she didn't bend from that. And so I kind of, that's how I raise my kids, and that's how I look at things. Like, I made this choice. Not in the case of my daughter, I'm not going to say that, but in the case of being an airline pilot, huh? Yeah. You made this choice, dumbass, and now here you are again. Right. So what are we going to do about it? Nobody's going to change it. You can sit and whine about it. No one gives a shit. So,
well, the good news is, you made the decision, hey, this is the direction I want to go. And, and I don't know if it was just the way you grew up or whatever, or if it's dumb luck, but you and Carrie decided to be financially, even more responsible, and, not ever planning on things going sideways, but you were prepared.
We were. Yeah.
And you are, moving in, to the season right now.
Yeah.
So one more question.
Yeah.
Probably not true. I probably have a few more questions, but next question for you is, you may have heard me say this, but I shared, by the time your child reaches, you got Addie, and your son's name is?
Declan.
Okay. Yeah. But by the time they reach age 18, you'll have spent 80% of the total time you'll ever get to spend with them.
Yep.
So the question I asked is, so what are 3 things you want to teach them?
Yeah, I've heard you ask this question before. Okay. Yeah, it's alarming to hear that. Yeah. It's saddening. It's sobering, right? 3 things I want to teach them. I love them. Number 1, I want them to always believe that and know that. Number 2, I don't know. I want them to respect others and their time just as much as they respect their own. Right. I think that's an important piece that is kind of getting lost these days, maybe. So the respect of others and demand that in return. Thirdly, I would say just never give up. You're going to get dealt a shitty hand here and there. It's how you handle that, right?
Yeah.
How do you handle the bad hands? The good hands are easy. So
yeah.
I guess that would be some good advice, right?
Well, absolutely. And, I think, one of the other phrases that I've shared more than a few times is that nothing affects the life of a child more than the unlived life of their father. But I need to put a little positive spin on it, that the tremendous impact of the father's life on their kids has ripple effects, meaning this: you have demonstrated more than a few occasions, in the last 20 years that there's nowhere to go but forward. I'll just continue to move forward. I'll continue to attack. I'll continue to take steps. Yes, preparation, but in the midst of the shitstorm, you still got to move forward.
Yeah.
And, that teaching, and I'm adjust the word that you use, but teaching your kids grit there, they're going to learn it. I'm sure there's some things that you've done, but they're going to learn so much of that because of the life in the way that you, Steve, have lived your life.
Yep, sure.
So,
yeah.
Man, so I applaud
I like the
you.
grit. I like the grit. Yeah. It's a good way to put it.
Well, one thing I would share with you, because you're just a year or two behind my oldest. My oldest is 13.
Yep.
And, my friend JT Anderson, we had him on, a few months ago, and his book just came out, Outside the Fence. And by the way, if you want to get a copy, I'll let you guys know where you can find a copy of the book. It's absolutely phenomenal. But
okay.
So he wrote this book. It literally just came out, and he had the opportunity to coach his son, through 8th grade. Okay. Which is where my son is now.
Yeah.
In baseball. He's a big baseball family.
Right.
And then basically the Outside the Fence is the 9th grade hits, and he's outside the fence.
Yeah, yeah.
And so here I am. I'm living this right now.
Are you?
And I coach my son in football, and so we just had our 5th of 6 regular season games. Okay, so we are 83.3% of the way through.
Wow, you did that in your head just now?
Well, I used to teach math, but yeah.
Jeez, man.
But I don't know. I saw we're close. I bet.
Probably right on.
So, hopefully we'll play off Super Bowl, that kind of stuff. But I one of the things that the gift that I have been given during this phase, the season, if you will, is the gift of just being aware and not having my head in the sand.
Yeah.
And going, I know that this moment is special.
Sure.
And creating some memories. Now, he plays center. So does that mean in practice the other day when he put 2 in the dirt back to back that I didn't chew his ass? Yes, I did. Okay. But, I am making sure that I'm there. And, I'm watching a couple of my buddies, who have kids in a similar age, and I'm a little afraid for them.
Okay.
Because I see them missing this season.
Because they're so worried about other
could be worried about
external,
jobs, could be worried about, whatever it is, or, their own hobbies or life or whatever. And, if there was anything I would just encourage men right now in this gift that we're giving in this unbelievably frustrating COVID situation, lockdown, all this other kind of stuff, is go, man, there's a gift here somewhere. There's a benefit inside of all this. Inside of all adversity, there is a seed of benefit, and it is our responsibility to find that. And, one of the seeds of benefit is some time that we can have with our kids that we're not going to get to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely enjoy it. Because, I didn't think, I thought, I don't know why I was so naive. I was naive in thinking I might get to miss this phase called teenage angst.
Yeah.
But it's a real thing.
No, it's real. I got pre-teenage angst going on.
I was going to say, you got a girl, so I'm like, I can't even imagine.
You should see her and her mom together on a bad day.
Are they at each other, or is it? Yeah.
There's a little bit of temper going on.
Two bulls in the ring together.
It's challenging.
Yeah. So one of the things you've done in preparation for the season, you decided you're going to make a little bit of a pivot because you didn't know what was going to happen. So you recently got a license and you're doing some other stuff. Tell us about what you're doing.
Yeah. Aside from selling a lot of toys, a couple dirt bikes, and downsizing a few things, I got my mortgage loan originator license, right? I started that process, I guess that was back in March when I saw this is going nowhere but down. And so, I did that, an online deal, took my test. I did it with another pilot friend of mine. So we kind of teamed up together, help each other out. And a common friend of both of ours has a couple of brokerages in the Houston area. And he kind of took us under his wing. And so now we're working remote with him and enjoying it. So.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, I love that you've done that, and just the ability to be able to pivot and to have a backup.
I can't sit there. I can't sit. I know a lot of guys that are just, I don't know, they're just kind of sitting on their hands hoping this all works out, and I can't do it.
Yeah.
I got to move. I'll fall into a hole if that happens, So, yeah, move forward, right?
I love it. Well, hey, if people want to connect with you, get some more information, I don't know, whatever it may be, how are they getting connected with you?
Email would probably be a good one.
What's the best one?
You can get me at Steve.brightman, BRIGHTMAN, at Motto, MOTTO, mortgage.com.
There you go.
And handle any lending questions or needs that you may have.
There you go. I love it.
Send them my way, man.
I love it. Well, Steve, man, I really appreciate you being on the podcast with us. And, I just love, I have so much enjoyed the stories that I've got to hear over the last, coming up on 2 years now, and just overcoming adversity, dealing with it. And I think that is truly one of the cornerstones of being a badass dad. And so you're doing it right here in front of us. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
You are a badass dad.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.
And hey, have a badass day, be a badass dad, and we are out. Wait. Steven, stop the music. Okay, if you listen this far, give me 87 more seconds. All I want you to do is please subscribe, leave us a review, leave us a 5-star rating. Do that now. You listen this far, just go ahead and leave us that quick review. Also, go to the Instagram. Follow us on the Instagram, the Badass Dads Podcast there. Go on Facebook, you can follow us there. Go to our website, BadAssDads.org. Register there. You can get all the up-to-date, everything from behind the scenes. Get the stuff. You can also find some swag, t-shirts and hats and mugs and different things, notebooks. There. So please, you listen to this far, give us a few more seconds. Have a badass day.